dado tanto, me ha dado el sonido y el abecedario, con él las palabras que pienso y declaro, madre, amigo, hermano, y luz alumbrando la ruta por donde yo ya voy pasando. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me ha dado la marcha de mis pies cansados, con ellos anduve, costales y charcos, playa de desiertos, montañas y llanos, y la casa tuya, tu calle y tu patio. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me ha dado la risa, que me ha dado el llanto, así yo distingo dicha de quebranto, los dos materiales que forman mi canto, y canto de ustedes que el mismo canto. Y el canto de todos, que es mi propio canto.
Please join me in taking a few moments to note that which is currently bringing joy or sorrow to our community. For joy, we extend a big thank you to Phil Soper and John Murphy for some last-minute electrical work in the mechanical room, and to Phil for setting up electricity for our forthcoming atrium coffee station. In sorrow, we also hold the Bainey family, as Gary is still recovering in the hospital. And in sorrow, we hold in our hearts all those impacted by the shooting of Sandra Massey. Let us now say her name before holding a moment of silence. Sandra Massey. May Sandra never be forgotten. And let us also hold space for all of the joys and sorrows in our hearts that are yet unnamed. And now please join us in singing hymn number 123, However You Feel Comfortable. The words are in Spanish are printed in the order of service.
We will sing in English first, and then in Spanish. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the strength of compassion. hacia mí y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla a volar, sube la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arráigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
I will invite you to sing one more time with us in English, but now without the instrumentals.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
When you think about Buenos Aires, when you think about what an experience on the streets of Buenos Aires might be like, what do you imagine? I think each of us came to Buenos Aires with different expectations. For me, this is a coming home to the land where my family still is, and the land where some of my recent ancestors have emigrated from. What were you imagining, Reverend Dawn?
Well, let me show you a video that that challenges what I was imagining.
Okay, thanks. That sounds great.
Let's go to video. So, why was that video not what I was expecting when I imagined coming to Buenos Aires? There are a few things. First off, the telephone booths were very European, and I wasn't expecting that. In the background, you might be able to see the architecture, and the architecture is so old, and I mean, there's just not a throwaway culture here. There's a make things work for the new incarnation of people. But there's one thing in particular that really struck me about this video, and it may be hard to see, and that is that the music is coming from a woman wearing a hijab, singing in Spanish, a contemporary folk song. And I did not expect to see a Muslim woman in a hijab speaking Spanish. That was not something that I really expected at all, and it really spoke to me about what my assumptions were when I hear the word Latina, and how to challenge, and how Buenos Aires is really challenging those assumptions.
So in the BIPOC community, part of why we caucus, part of why there's a white caucus, and part of why there's a BIPOC caucus is because in BIPOC spaces, part of our work, and particularly speaking as a Latina in the Latinx community or the Latin community, some of our work is around how colorism exists, because we know we're a rainbow. We are Asian Latinos, Middle Eastern Latinos, we are Afro-Latinos, we are Indígena. Many of us are multiracial. In fact, the majority of people in Argentina are multiracial because of colonization. Much more so even than in the United States. So we are present to what our work is, and that work can only be unpacked in BIPOC spaces. We can only work out and navigate some of the differences in privilege, even within the Latinx community, the way colorism exists, etc., in those spaces. And it sounds like you confronted a bias, an unconscious bias,
That's right.
which we all have in that moment.
It really has been. In fact, this trip very much has been, as a white person, challenging my assumptions of what it means to be Latino, what it means to be living in a Latin American country. And it has been a fantastic challenge. So, and I know that some of the other white folks on this trip are experiencing very similar things.
And something else that's happening is some of the folks on the trip are having a very different experience of Buenos Aires because of where they're staying. Just like any major city, and there are 16 million people, mi gente, 16 million in Buenos Aires. It's one of the largest cities in the world. There are sections of Buenos Aires, and some folks are staying in a more white, light Latino, skin-dominated section, more business sectors. We are staying in one of the older portions of the city, somewhat like Chicago. There's different barrios. In Buenos Aires, we are staying in San Telmo, which I believe is where my family started out, was in the San Telmo area. And we want to talk about the streets of Recoleta, cerca de la escuela, and I'll talk a little bit about the streets of San Telmo and La Boca.
Sure. Absolutely. So the school we're going to, Vamos Academy, for the language Spanish immersion program, is near the Recoleta neighborhood. I don't think it's in Recoleta, but it's like next to it.
Sí,
Right,
cerca de El Teatro, near the theater district.
Mm-hmm. It is fantastically located because it's also near the San Nicolas area, which is where the Obelisco and some very famous landmarks are. So it's beautifully situated, and you can really see as you walk from the school into the Recoleta area, you can see the infusion of money that has happened, and the way the roads get wider, the businesses shift. It's just clearly, and there seem to be parks everywhere. It's like any city or a town that you go to, there are more affluent areas, and it's just clear that Recoleta is one of them, and it's a wonderful tourist area as well, in part if for.
Right, so a lot of like European tourists are there,
Right.
so you notice that, but it is a place where racismo, racism, shows.
Right, absolutely. Like that's where that colorism that you're talking about and racism come in, that the more whiter presenting people are, the more warmly received they are. And I still haven't gotten to see the Recoleta Cemetery, although there's some history there that I know that I want to see.
Recoleta, and we need to go to Chacarita, which is where I have some family to find.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Chacarita, there's two cemeteries. Recoleta is where more dignitaries have sort of been buried. The grave of Evita Perón is there. Chacarita is where you see the division of like who attention is paid to. Chacarita is an important space where other leaders are buried that don't get as much press. So that's where we'll go to Chacarita as well.
It really, I think the thing, you mentioned that Buenos Aires is 13 million people, and I think that for 16 million, thank you, 16 million people, and I think that like it is a mega city. It is twice the size of Chicago, and that is one of the things that some of the white folks on this trip have really struggled with. I did some videos asking folks, and you either have seen or will see some clips of some of those videos, but one of the things that a number of folks mentioned was not realizing that Buenos Aires was twice the size of Chicago and nearly the size of the New York metro area. That did not fit into their conceptions of what a Latin American city is. And there are several Latin American mega cities, as it turns out.
which again was not a surprise to me, but also
Right.
I want to share a little bit about some of the older neighborhoods here. I talked about
Yes.
Chacarita already, and just a little bit about Chacarita, Cementerio, and I'm going to get back to that because I need, at some point, we're going to talk about football.
Ah, yes.
Football. Football.
Football is
Football
life.
is so important. Football is life, and there's a reason for that. Well, we're going to get to that in just a minute. But I want you to journey with me for just a minute. If you can put aside all this heady stuff that we're talking about and just begin to get a feel. Just get a feel for your heartbeat. Get a feel for the busiest streets that you've been on, and then add some music. The music of tango, the music of the bandoneon, which is the traditional instrument. Some people think it's an accordion, pero no, it is a bandoneon. Think of that sound playing and just breathe in the sense of open air markets, of roasting nuts, of una parrilla, barbecue, grilled vegetables, grilled meat, flowing in the air all around you. So many conversations happening, people smiling and saying hello, older buildings that are well loved, people spilling onto the streets at all hours, sitting for hours at a cafe table, having a conversation long past that last sip of cafecito. This is my Buenos Aires. This is the Buenos Aires we are experiencing in our neighborhood in San Telmo. This, it is a far more diverse community than you will see in other areas. And there's another community that I need to talk about. Some of you, if you've ever seen pictures of Buenos Aires, and if you just keep breathing with me to inhale the scents that I mentioned in San Telmo, if you can imagine those, and the sounds of the street, add to that gorgeous colors, reds and aqua and yellow flowing into each other side by side. That is La Boca. La Boca was a main port in Buenos Aires for the majority of Buenos Aires' history. And it also was a space with many immigrants who worked during the industrial time in the La Boca neighborhood lived. And because wages were terrible, they often reclaimed materials from the shipping yards, and that's how they built their homes. And the leftover paint was used to paint their homes, which is why there's so many colors in La Boca. And La Boca and San Telmo are the places where tango started. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I can talk a little bit about that, but I want to also just lift up that as you were speaking, Katie, like I've seen the vendors with the nuts and the music and the streets, and I hadn't, until you named that, I hadn't realized that was missing in Recoleta. It was much more, could have been like New York. And so, yeah, whereas where we are here in San Telmo, it is alive. You've gotten several videos of music playing outside our balcony.
Yes, till like 4:35 in the morning.
Right? So it's just really, it really is a different experience. And I haven't been to La Boca yet, but I know. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Tango is, you want me to talk a little bit about tango or just?
Sure.
We had a tango lesson and as a part of our immersion experience, and we learned a little bit about tango in that. And I think, so I have done some ballroom dancing, I've done salsa and bachata and swing dancing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I was really curious about the tango. And what I really loved was our instructor said that tango is about communication. Right? There is a constant communication between you and your partner, and there is in most ballroom dancing, but there's also a constant tension to keep the lines of communication going. There has to be tension. I think in some ballroom dancing it's called a frame, but I've never experienced the importance of that communication the way I did when we were doing tango. It really needed, I had to very much pay attention to what my partner was doing, and it was really something. So I love this idea of tango as communication, but she also said that it's a walk. That tango is a walk that you do together with your partner, and that made it feel more accessible. But tango is actually even more accessible than that. Let's cut to this video of an accessible tango that we saw that I think was really powerful. And I love that it demonstrates that tango really is for everyone. And it started in San Telmo and La Boca. There's something else that La Boca is very, very famous for.
Boca Juniors! Boca Juniors!
Football!
Football. So there is two of the most popular teams in Buenos Aires are Boca Juniors and River Plate. Now, both of these teams, every particular neighborhood has its own team. Like we have the CAST here in San Telmo. I mentioned Chacarita earlier, the Chacaritas, which I went to a Chacarita game. And the Chacarita means undertaker, but the Chacaritas, their colors are red and black. They rose up from a socialist anarchist movement. And that is how their name came to be, how their colors were chosen. Football is very political. Football is life. Football is life. Here you also will have a lot of tension. Like some people will say, ponerse número 10. Ponerse número 10. So on the Argentine national team, número 10, you might be thinking Lionel Messi. And that is true. And also, Maradona. Diego Maradona is one of the most famous football players in the entire world. And he is from here in Buenos Aires, did a lot of work continuing to pour money back into Buenos Aires. But putting on number 10 means that you are putting on your leadership. And what you need to understand is, with football, there is... because each community is so invested in their football club, if you are the president of a club, that puts you in a position to have power in the larger government. And if you think about organizing bodies and the different ways that you can come to power in Argentina, the way democracy is run, there's no special interest groups, mi gente. Everyone gets the same amount of money when they run. So if you are connected to large groups of people, you have a better chance of winning. So if you are the president of a team like Boca Juniors,
more connections,
then you have more power, more visibility, more connections, and it helps you in your larger political career. This is just a small piece of politically how important football is, but it is in every aspect of Argentine life. So you may not, like, if you live here and you don't like football, you're still gonna go to a football game because that's where your friends are. And when I was at the Chacarita game, I mean, the whole neighborhood gathers on the street for parrilla, and so the grill's out, asado's being made pre-game, and then everybody starts playing music and dancing in the streets, and then kind of marches together to the estadio, and then watches the game together. No visiting teams, fans are allowed in the stadium. There's also no alcohol served in the stadiums. So instead you'll see people like of all ages drinking mate, multiple generations, because literally everybody goes to all the games. There is no reason for missing a game unless you're in the hospital, because this is where the whole community is on game day. So it football is life.
I love that it's a unifying event, a shared
Yes.
experience that a community has together, right?
Yes.
Because we know that that's when connections are strengthened, when you have a shared
Yes.
experience. And so football not only provides all of this political connections and fun, I mean, of course it's fun, and entertainment, but it also provides the strengthening of the community, which I think is really important. And in fact, it was really exciting. Unfortunately, I had just arrived Sunday morning and was too tired to stay up. But the Sunday that some of us arrived was the Copa America's final game between Argentina and Colombia. And some of the folks in our group were able to stay at the restaurant that we were at and celebrate and watch the game. And we can show a little bit, two video clips. One of what happened in the restaurant after Argentina scored a goal, the only goal of the game, and won. And then what happened as people from all over the city came and flocked to El Obelisco, to the center, like a center gathering point for the community, and just were able to celebrate. And I think it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by the time people were doing this, but they were just so excited to have won the Copa.
So, and I'm thinking some people that are watching this video who might not be Latino might not understand how communal our culture is. When one of us has a success, we all have a success. And we are always responsible. As we become more successful, we are always responsible still to our communities. So the celebration is deep and meaningful in a way that I don't experience often in the U.S. It feels, can I just say, it feels really good to be in such a communal culture. There are shades of this in the Midwest, which is part of why I love the Midwest, because I feel like the Midwest is more communal than the coasts. But this level of celebration, it's like all of the ancestors, the ground shakes. Because throughout the generations, we are celebrating together something that our people have done.
Well, and I think, Katie, so one of the things that I asked about on Sunday was people were bringing in tables and chairs, and I asked very clumsily, are they doing that because they're afraid of a riot, if that were to happen? And that came from my background. I was in Kentucky for a number of years, and when UK won or lost, the fans would pour out into the streets, and they would often set fire to cars and like turn like it was a thing. But what you're and Katie was Reverend Katie, you were very helpful, and you were like, no, that's not it. And this is that community piece, right? Like when you are grounded in all, when one of us wins, all of us win. That sort of sense of community and connection, then that.
And the losses too. I mean, it is deep, painful grief and shame, and we process that and feel that as a community, and talk and live out those hard things together in a community. Big feelings are not something that we're afraid of.
So as you watch these videos, just bear in mind that there is that community connection, that in the restaurant and outside afterwards, it is a celebration not just of the country, but of people's connections to one another. So let's watch those videos real quick. What message do we want you all to leave with today, other than we're having an amazing time, challenging time, growth-filled time in Buenos Aires? What is the message? And I think particularly in this time when our country is in turmoil, when there is so much fear, when there is so much happening and so much change, there's much that we can learn and take from the people here.
There is our painter, Benito Quinquela Martin from La Boca. And Quinquela, all of his paintings that you will see are full of colors. Even the boats that he paints from when they were in the port that were probably a single color are multicolored. The waves are multicolored, and Quinquela saw the world that way, rich with all the variety of emotions, rich with the variety of people and passions and pains. And for him, those colors were always mingling and dancing and existing side by side. And he didn't shy away from that. He didn't try to mute that, but instead wanted to paint it and share it so that everyone could see the beauty even in what was difficult. So our invitation is to take some of the spirit of my ancestors, some of the spirit of this land that we are blessed to be on. We want to share it with you back in los Estados Unidos so that you may feel the spirit of community. Take this as an invitation to connect more deeply as community, to know your neighbor, to feel each other out with the rhythm of a tango, to really move into the tensions, to hear the music on the streets or experience the music on the streets in whichever way that you do, and lean into that in a way that creates a beautiful, multicolored, more real, more hopeful future. May it be so.
Thank you, Reverend Katie.
Thank you. When you think about
What a great video. I was really glad to hear and learn all of that from them. So, this week we are sharing our offering plate with the diverse and revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multiculturalist Ministries, or DRUM. DRUM's mission includes overcoming racism through resistance and transforming and enriching Unitarian Universalism through multicultural experiences. To contribute, you can give cash or check into the collection plate, or visit allsoulsindy.org and click Give to All Souls here under today's service description. When giving online or by check, please specify if it is for a pledge or for Share the Plate. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls and for your continued love for one another and for this world. The morning offering may now be given and gratefully received.
Buenos Aires, when you think about what an experience on the streets of
No olvides, hermano, cosa que no hay que jugar. una cabeza, toda la locura, su boca que besa, borra la tristeza, salva la amargura. Por una cabeza, si ella me olvida, ¿qué importa perderme 1000 veces la vida? ¿Para qué vivir?
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I didn't realize I was live. We're having a few technical difficulties this morning, but we're hanging in. Thank you all so much for hanging in as we are on this journey, and I know everyone's working hard. That video that was just shared, I filmed on my very first day here, and it is very, very typical to go through the streets of San Telmo, La Boca, and sometimes other places in Buenos Aires, and someone is singing, and they're singing a classic like Por la Cabeza, and other folks in the crowd either come in to join the musician or they're also singing in the crowd. And after the song, there is applause and strangers hugging and the spirit of gratitude and community. There's tango in the streets, there's drum groups moving through. It is, every inch of this city is very much alive, alive with community spirit, alive with the community's culture and roots rising up in places in very, very visible ways. It's been a gift to share some of this with you. And it's in this spirit that I bring to you the words of Benito Quinquela Martin. And these words are written on a plaque and at the end of an exhibit. Street art is everywhere here, but there's a huge exhibit of street art by Alfredo Segatori, who quoted Quinquela saying, "El color nace con uno, es instintivo. Elegí color para las flores y el pasaje, para mis barcos y mis cielos, para este riachuelo que prolonga mi vida hacia un río cambiantes tonos. El color nunca muere y yo entre colores seguiré viviendo. Color is born with us. It is instinctive. I choose color for the flowers and the landscape, for my boots and my skies, for this stream that extends my life towards a river of changing tones. Color never dies, and I will continue living among colors." As you go forth in this day, I invite you to view the world as Quinquela did, to see the colors everywhere, to connect in community, and live into the vibrancy that life has to offer. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be.